Hi class. Last week we learned three types of loops, which is while loop, do while loop, and for loop. If you remember, all of them were counter-based, meaning counter controlled. It was controlled by some counter. Today we are going to take a look at a couple more examples of while loop, which would be event control loops. We will start with input validation. Input validation is very important concept of programming classes and of programming itself. For example, if we ask user to input some numbers and he or she inputs a string, your program is going to crash. It's going to crash your program, and it's very dangerous, it's very insecure, and your program even can be compromised or hacked, or not just programs, the entire system. So we have to be careful with users' input. Let's do some example. Let's write a program that asks a user to input some number in a range of 1 to 100. So I'm going to create main method. I'm going to import scanner. And create a scanner. And I'm going to ask user for a number. Enter. And I'm going to read this number from console. So now I really want to make sure user inputs a number of this range. I don't want it to be negative, I don't want it to be a string or float or anything else. I want exactly what I ask for. So that's how we can use while loop to validate the input. So the purpose is I'm going to keep asking user for a number until he or she inputs correct number. So while number less than 1 or number greater than 100, I'm going to keep asking user for a number. Inside while loop. The number is not is invalid. Then I ask to re-enter the number, and I'm going to receive or accept this number again and store it. So again, what happens here? While while number is less than 1 or number is greater than 100, I'm keeping I keep asking user to re-enter this. I let the user know it's wrong number, and then I ask for a number again, and I read this number again. Let's see how it works. For example, user input is 0. The number is invalid. Enter a number from 1 to 100, and let's say user is very silly and inputs 200. I do not accept this number. I just wait until user input is what I expect. I don't want to accept this number because it can be very dangerous for my program, or that's not what I want at all. So let's say negative 20, it's not. But if I input something within this range, it accepts the number. So basically what happens here, while this condition is true, if it's negative or over 100, keep asking for a number and it will be looping. But once this condition is false, which means it's going to be within this range, what I ask, the while loop will terminate. It will just exit the loop. Let's take a look at another example. I'm going to ask user to input his or her PIN number for ATM. And you know, for some users it's going to take one attempt, for some users it's going to take like 10 attempts. It depends on how bad memory can be of some users. So I'm going to ask for a PIN, and I'm going to keep asking for a PIN until it's correct. Let's create a method, main method. And I'm going to create a scanner. And ask user please enter a PIN. So now we are going to do while loop. Let's say if PIN is not correct, let's assume correct PIN is 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say it's correct. And while it's not correct, I'm going to ask user for PIN again. And I'm going to store this information. Now I'm going to have some if statement just for printing purposes. If PIN is correct, I'm going to print I'm going to state so correct PIN But if it's not, else I will let the user know that it is wrong. Try again. So let's see how it works. Compile, run, enter a pin, and I'm entering a wrong pin, and it's asking me again, please enter a pin, and it's saying it's wrong, try again. Now I will input correct pin 1, 2, 3 and 4, and it's saying correct pin. So that's how it works. And this condition inside of while loop, not condition, but exactly this 1, 2, 3, 4, which in this case is correct pin. We call it sentinel value. It means it's a value that causes the termination of the loop. So as soon as user will input this number, the loop will terminate. It will exit the loop. So sometimes the endpoint of input data is not known. A sentinel value can be used to notify the program to stop occurring input. That's what we just saw. Once the user input 1, 2, 3, 4, which was correct pin, the while loop stopped. Of course, you can use it in different ways. For example, you can just tell user to input 0 to exit or something like this. The main idea that sentinel value is used to stop while loop instead of counter. That's it for loops. And now we will continue with this chapter, and we will learn about file input, how to read files, how to write into files in Java.